Hello, students. You are welcome to session 3 of Unit 4. And in this session, we'll be looking at the uses of instructional materials in physics teaching. My name is Patrick Eji. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to explain the uses of instructional materials in physics teaching and state the considerations in choosing instructional materials. Now, we saw in previous sessions what instructional materials are, and we saw the types of instructional materials, and we saw these types as the audio media, the visual aids, as well as the audio-visual aids. And we saw that these are materials that can enhance students' learning of various concepts. However, they are dependent on the teacher's resourcefulness to identify them and use it in his or her teaching. And so what are the uses of these instructional materials? Now, instructional aids that are properly used by the physics teacher will help him to communicate effectively by adding realism and substance to the ideas, descriptions, and explanations that are used in the course of instruction. So when you, the physics teacher, through your creativity, through your resourcefulness, you are able to add or incorporate the appropriate and relevant instructional media into your teaching and learning, then understand that your students are also going to see how real the things that you have been presenting to them is. They will now be able to understand the various concepts that they find them difficult to understand. And they also serve as tools that will be used by the teacher to correct wrong impressions and illustrations about things that learners cannot forget easily. Now remember that always our learners come to the classroom with their own preconceived notions about the various concepts in the physics syllabus. But with the use of appropriate instructional media, you can correct the wrong impressions, the wrong concept, the wrong conceptions they have about some of the concepts in the physics syllabus. And instructional media also gives lessons a personal look, and it also encourages teachers' creativity. How will this encourage your creativity? Mind you that although a lot of instructional media are at your disposal, however, your ability to identify which media should I use to teach this concept, at which time should I introduce it, how should it be introduced, all will determine on your creativity as a teacher. And so your ability to use such media to maximize students' learning will at the end of the day also improve your creativity as a teacher. And it also permits students and teachers to experience in concrete terms the learning activities that can promote the idea of self-evaluation. So although we use it to teach in order to maximize student learning, however, both the teacher and the student also experience the concrete items that are being presented in the teaching learning process. And at the end of the day, the learner benefits, and you, the teacher, you also benefit from the media that was used in the teaching and learning process. And it is also for the improvement of student rate of accumulation. It helps students to grasp concepts very well. It helps them to understand concepts that they will find difficult to understand them. And it stimulates learners' bodily senses and help clarify abstract or complex concepts. So, assuming you are using a video, which is an audio-visual aid, in your classroom, now you realize that learners are going to pay attention to the various things in the video, especially when it is the first time you are introducing such a thing in your teaching. They are going to pay attention, and at the end of the day, it will help them to clarify some of the concepts that they were finding difficulties in. It will even help them to have a real-world view of some of the abstract concepts in physics. Now, what factors must you consider as a teacher anytime you are choosing an nature of the audience. And with the nature of the audience, you must consider the size of the class. Now remember that if you want to use a visual aid and you have a class with about 300 students and you have, let's say, a very small chart, you realize that those at the far end will find it difficult to see what you have pasted on the board. And so the class size will determine the kind of media that you will use in the classroom, their level of understanding, the age of the learners, their aptitude, their experience. All these are factors that you have to consider anytime you are choosing a particular instructional media to deliver a concept to your learners. And the nature of the changes that you desire in your learners. So, is it a new learning skill you want to develop in your learners? Do you want your learners to gain a new information, or you want to bring about a change in their attitude? This will also affect the kind of instructional material that you present in teaching that particular concept. And the nature of the subject being taught. So here we are talking about physics. What is the nature? Most of our concepts are abstract in nature. And so because they are abstract, most of the things that you use in presenting concepts must be those materials that can help your learners to have a real world feel of the things that we do present to them. And also the relative cost. And here the relative cost must be in terms of time, money, and energy. Are the materials cost effective? Are they cost efficient? If we want to buy, can we buy them? How long will it take us if we want to use this kind of material? All these must be taken into consideration anytime we are choosing an instructional material to help us deliver a particular concept in the physics syllabus to our learners. And the ability of the teachers to also handle the aid. Now, you as a teacher, you must understand that every instructional media you take to the classroom, you should be able to effectively use it well. And so when you take a material that you don't have the knowledge behind or the knowledge to use that particular media, although you have taken it to the classroom, but mind you that it will be of no use in the teaching learning process. We must also understand that instructional media, although they are good, although they maximize student learning, but they cannot solve all the problems of teaching. What do? They only make teaching and learning more effective. And so teaching aids require a lot of skill and proper attitude on the part of the teacher, not only in their construction, but also in their use. So you can improvise some materials. That is very good. But how do you use them? How are you going to use? All these are very, very important when it comes to your ability to use this particular instructional aid in order to ensure that teaching and learning become more effective. So the decision to use some aids or not in the classroom may be determined by the prevailing situation. So it is the situation in your classroom that will determine which kind of instructional aid that you must use in the physics classroom. So for example, the use of audiovisual aids like television sets, slides, or overhead projector will require the availability of an electric power. So you are in a community where you don't have access to electricity. You realize that you cannot use instructional aids like television, like computers. These things cannot be used there because they all depend on electric power to operate. And so in such a situation where there is no electricity, you realize that their use is rendered impossible. Students, in this session, we look at the uses of instructional materials as well as the factors that one must consider in the choice of a particular teaching aid. Now, as we bring the session to an end, outline the factors to consider when choosing an instructional material